If God has called you to it, He will equip you for it. Hi, I'm Gina Duke with Churchtown Ministries. Thank you for tuning in to ginaduke.com. So, in my last video presentation, I talked about how God calls a person into ministry, what that might feel like, what it might look like, and I did it using the call of Jeremiah that is outlined and detailed in Jeremiah chapter 1. We went through the first 9 verses. Now I'm going to pick up with the remaining verses of that chapter and talk about how God equipped Jeremiah, because it's precious to me, and I think when I explain how God did it, you're going to feel the same way. It says in verse 11, the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah, and he says, "What do you see, Jeremiah?" Now remember, God has called Jeremiah to be a prophet to the nations. So Jeremiah needs to understand God's symbolism. I don't know that God showed him things in a vision, if he showed him things in a dream, if he actually just the actual thing just popped up into their very presence and they discussed it. I'm not sure how that worked. But what I do know is that God made sure that Jeremiah understood those particular things. So he comes to Jeremiah and he says, he asks him, "What do you see, Jeremiah?" And Jeremiah says, "I see the branch of an almond tree." And the Lord says, "Well, you've seen correctly." And that's really only discussion that they have at that point about that almond tree branch. So the Lord is first just making sure that Jeremiah understands what he is showing him. Then it says, in the next, in verse 13, it says, "Then the word of the Lord came to me again and asked, 'What do you see?' And he says, 'I see a pot of boiling, a pot that is boiling, and it's tilted toward us from the north.' Now the Lord reaffirms him, and he says, 'From the north, disaster will be poured out on all the people who live in the land.'" So now God has went the next step. He says, not only is it correct what you see, this is what it means, and this is how you will interpret it and translate it for the people, as I give you more symbols or picture messages that you can share with the people. And so God does that with us. He begins with small things. So don't despise the day of the small things. He'll start us out with very small things, and then as we are learning and growing and becoming more faithful and more educated of how God deals with us, He gives us more opportunities. And so what I provided for you is a worksheet. I hope that you print it out and actually work through it, and it's going to ask you some of the questions and really help you narrow down as to how God is training you. The reason we're doing this is all for you to have more spiritual clarity in what God may be calling you to do. And just that you'll be reassured that whatever He's called you to do, He's going to equip you to do. Then there is a charge here at the bottom. God gave Jeremiah a charge. That charge is for us too. And it says in verse 17, "Get yourself ready." And then it says, "Stand up." And so as God calls us into ministries, and again, ministry can be something as simple as, maybe a nursing home visitation that maybe God's calling you to minister to the elderly. It could be something where He's calling you to take on a new ministry. Maybe it's in public speaking or whatnot. Get yourself ready. And these are some of the worksheets that you can use to do that. So again, I hope this has been helpful to you. Thank you for tuning in to ginaduke.com.